Recordings in progress. Okay, here we go. All right, how to build trust. How to build trust. So let me ask you this before I get started on all my stuff. Get some audience participation here. When you think of somebody you trust, what are some characteristics of people you trust?
Loyalty.
Go ahead, Tyrone, what was that?
Loyalty.
Honesty.
Loyalty. Okay, yes, loyalty. Maria says reliable.
Honesty.
Honesty, loyalty, reliable. Sure, all great. What else? What are some other, when you think of somebody you trust, what are some other characteristics?
Dependable.
Integrity, dependable, consistent, kind. I agree. I agree with all this. Okay, good. All right, so we have a general idea of what we're doing. So these are all things that you have come up with, and these are all pretty much on track. So what I would challenge you to do is to, first of all, before we even get started any further, we're not going to do this right now, okay? But write down these words that you're using to describe trust as how you see it, and then ask yourself, am I displaying this to people I talk to? Am I displaying this to my database? Am I displaying this to my contacts? Because sometimes what we need to do, and I'm the guiltiest of all guilty, okay, so I'm here with you on this one, is sometimes we say we need something, but we don't actually write down specifically what that means to us, so we don't know if we're actually doing it or not. So with these words that we just talked about with trust, make sure that you're doing that as well. So I looked up the actual definition of trust based on the Oxford Dictionary. Here's the definition. Firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. Firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. So some of the words we talked about, right? Reliable, honest, but the strength also in our business, that would, mean something a little bit different. So then I looked up a couple different things in terms of some other definitions from business people and how they define trust. So a couple things that I found here was being able to have a sense of security and confidence when dealing with somebody. Sense of security and confidence. Having the ability to predict that someone will act in specific ways and be dependable. Earning a level of credibility that is built up over time. These are some other definitions I found online from different business people. So again, as we get into, we're going to get into the different ideas on how to build trust, but these are great questions to ask yourself as we go through this. Am I giving a sense of security when I'm dealing with someone? In real estate, is there a high level of emotion dealing with buyers and sellers?
Absolutely.
So when they're at a high level of emotion, security is probably really important to them, right? So the question is, are you giving a sense of security to them, or are you freaking them out even more? All right. We got to ask ourselves that question. Now, we're never purposefully freaking people out, but what happens, all jokes aside, is that we get frustrated and then the client senses our frustration. And that's where they lose that sense of security, because ultimately the client is looking at us as hope. We are the sense of hope to them that no matter what goes on in this transaction, Robert's got my back. He's got me taken care of. So when we call them and say, well, Appraisal came in short. Freaking guy doesn't know what he's doing. So I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to try to get that. Now they're going, oh my God, I've lost all my security. We didn't do it on purpose, but we gave them our frustration. So now they're like, does Robert know what he's doing? He says he's going to help me, but now the appraisal's coming short, even though we're not the appraiser. We lost that sense of security. And so the trust starts going down a little bit. Okay. So that's the sense of security and confidence when dealing with someone, having the ability to predict that someone will act in specific ways and be dependable. Do they know, do they expect that you're going to call them at a certain amount, at a certain day every week? Or on certain days of the week? Well, I know that every, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Robert's going to call me and let me know what's going on. Or do you have clients sitting around going, well, I don't know if he's going to call me today or not? When they know when you're going to contact them and you contact them on those days, the trust is there. When they're sitting around going, I don't know, he might call me today, he might not. There's no trust there. You're just kind of hanging out, right? Earning a level of credibility that's built up over time. So we're going to talk more about this, but these are just some little definitions of trust. Level of credibility that's built up over time. So this could be somebody that's not even, you've never even done a deal with, but you've built up credibility over time with them by responding to certain things, helping them in certain ways, things along those lines. So we're going to talk a lot about those types of things. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's dive into this. So here's a few different ways on how you actually build trust. Okay. Because we talk about trust, but how do you actually build it? Now, some of this you've heard before. Some of this maybe you haven't. Some of it maybe you've heard before, but just never in this particular type of way. So let's go through these. The first thing I wrote down here on building trust is you have to value long-term relationships. You have to value long-term relationships. Trust requires long-term thinking. So, what does that mean in terms of real estate? Here's what that means. Can they tell that all you care about is this current deal? Or are you their real estate agent forever? Another word we have for that is commission breath, right? I really need the deal. Okay. You're beating them up on price. You're beating them up on commission, right? I got to get this much. You're just thinking about this particular one. You're not necessarily thinking long-term. You're not asking about their motivation. You're not asking about why they think things certain way. You're just telling them. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's going to be the cost. Thank you. Bye. People can pick up on that stuff. Or long-term thinking. Asking more about their motivation. Well, we're thinking about selling this house. Great. I'll be there at 6. No. Oh, great. Where would you move? Well, we're selling this house and moving to Palm Springs. Wow. Why Palm Springs? We're going to retire there. What do you do for a living? What are you going to do in Palm Springs? Why Palm Springs? Right? You're interested in what they're doing. Here's a great, great question on building long-term relationships that's straight from Neil. You go to a listing. They're going to sell their house to buy another house. You ask them this question, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, before we get started, is there any way for you to be able to keep this house and still purchase the next house? Is there any way for you to be able to keep this house and still purchase the next house? Now, some of you are thinking, why would I say that? I might be giving away the listing. But what am I doing when I ask that question? What am I doing?
Building a long-term relationship.
Building a long-term relationship. Because I'm telling them I'm not just about the money on this deal. I want your listing, but ideally, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you can keep this property and have a little real estate portfolio, that's what you should do. Now, let's be honest. Can most people keep their current property and buy another one? No.
No.
So are you really going to lose many listings? No. What you're going to do, though, is gain a client that now trusts you, because every other real estate agent they talked to ran over there and said, I can get you this much money. I can get you this much. I'm only going to do it for this commission and da, 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 all these other different things. And I'm sitting there going, can you keep it? That would be great. Okay. Or what about this? So Mr. and Mrs., calling your database and saying, hey, I got a question for you. What's your 10-year goal in terms of real estate? Well, what do you mean? Well, fast forward 10 years from now, do you want to be in this same house? Do you want to be in a different house? Do you want to have investment properties? Do you want to be at that time building a dream house? What's your 10-year goal in terms of real estate? You think real estate agents ask clients that question a lot? Everybody say no.
That's an insurance agent, huh?
Real estate agents go, what can I do to help you sell this house today? What about their 10-year goals? Value long-term relationships. The next thing I wrote down here, pretty simple. I didn't want to complicate this. Be honest, right? That was one of the things that was said earlier. Be honest. So, but how do we be honest in terms of real estate? So let me ask you this. How do you show honesty in terms of real estate? How do you show honesty in terms of real estate?
Show them you care.
Okay, but how? Give me something specific.
Give them news, bad news early.
Give them bad news early. Sure. Something, if you're working with a client and something's not going well, don't sugarcoat it. Just say, hey, look, here's the issue. Sure. What else? How else in real estate can we show honesty? What about price? Yukiko says, keep your word. Yeah. What about price, right? Well, Robert, I want to sell this for $950. And we say, I'll be honest with you, you're probably $900. Now, are they going to want to hear that? No. But you're being honest with them. This property would probably sell for $900,000. But I did all of this to the house. I know, and it looks great. It's probably going to sell for $900,000. Like, you're just being honest with them, even though they don't like it. How about this for being honest? Telling them, I'm not sure, but I'll get back to you. Hey, Robert, I heard that there's a new development going on in the area, that they just got these plans to put this new development in the area. How do you think that's going to affect the housing market? You know what? I'm actually not sure about that new development. Let me look it up and get back to you. Instead of going, oh, well, it might do this, and you're just rambling on about something you don't know. How about this for being honest? They ask you a question and you say, you know what, that's not really my area of expertise. Let me get you over to someone that can. Oh, wow, great, thanks. So for example, well, how is this going to affect my taxes? Well, let me tell you about that. Oh, I didn't know that you were a real estate agent and a CPA. No, let me get you over to be honest with them, right? So there's a variety of different ways that you can be honest, even if it's awkward, even if it's not what they want to hear, okay? But what you don't want to do is have them catch you in a bad situation, okay? Catch you in a lie, catch you when they know that you're not telling the truth. Okay, just be honest. Be honest with them about what's going on. All right, number 3, honor your commitments. Honor your commitments. A trustworthy person does everything in their power to stick to agreements they've made. If you make a promise, follow through on it. Now, here's a key thing in regards to honoring your commitments. What's one way to make sure you don't overpromise? What's one way to make sure you don't overpromise or you don't break a promise?
You under promise,
Under promise, sure. Yeah.
over deliver.
Yeah. Right. So here, let's keep this to the most simplest form. One of the ways you honor your commitments and follow through on your promises is avoid making promises that you might not be able to keep. One of the biggest ways we lose trust, and Sam, you're 100% right, is, under promise, over deliver, is we make promises that we don't know if we can really do. Okay. Present company included. I don't do it anymore, but I've done it. Totally done it. Can you do that? Oh, yeah. And then as soon as you leave, go, I don't even know what they asked. I don't even know what they want me to do, but I told them I could do it. I worked for a guy who did that years ago. One of my first sales jobs is we sold lists. Meaning, so like right now, you get lists of phone numbers, right? For owners in the area. Well, you can get lists for anything. You can get lists of boat owners. You can get lists of whatever. People that have dogs, people that have cats. You can break it down really specific. And my boss his philosophy was, whatever list they want, just say we can do it and we'll figure it out later. And so somebody could come and say, all right, here's what I'm looking for. And it could be the most outrageous things. And people would ask for the most outrageous things. I'm looking for people that own boats in the San Gabriel Valley area between the ages of 25 and 50 and make over $100,000 a year. And my job was to just come up with some random number. You know what? There's 512 people on that list. And then I would have to say, and then I would say, this is how much it is. They would send in the payment. We would send that to our back office. And then they would call me and go like, where did you come up with 512 people? I'm like, this is the number I came up with. And they're like, there's two people, And so then I'd have to call them back and say, you know what? I'm sorry, my bad. I said 512. I must've clicked the wrong button. There's only two. That's what they did. But his philosophy was just get him a contract. That was not good service. Okay. That's not a good way to build trust. So I'm making commitments. I'm making promises that I can't keep. If you can't do it, don't say you're going to do it, which in real estate becomes hard because other real estate agents are saying that they can, right? Well, the other real estate agent said they can get my home sold in 7 days. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I might be able to get it sold in 7 days, but I would never promise that. Well, the other real estate agent said that they said they could definitely get me 900,000. I would love to get you 900,000, Mr. Marcel. There's no way I can promise that based on these comps. So it's hard in real estate to avoid that because other real estate agents are crappy. And so they make promises and the seller believes them. But you have to do what you say you're going to do. So here's one of the things I wrote down. Does everybody have a plan of action that they provide to a seller? Here's my listing plan of action. Okay, great. What I want all of you to do, and I'm not saying this as a joke, I'm saying this to be real, is this is your homework assignment. Review that plan of action and ask yourself, do I actually do all the things on this list? Now, how do I know some of you don't do everything on that list? How do I know that? There's one item in particular on the Mike Ferry plan of action that I know you do not do. Anybody know?
Shop it to other agents.
No. You might you might email it to other agents. See, one of the line items on the Mike Ferry plan of action that he's never updated and some of you still use says that you're going to fax.
Oh, no.
You're going to fax an information sheet to other agents in town. I know none of you are faxing an information sheet about the listings to other agents in town. But that's what you're sending if you're using that one, okay? Some of you might not be using that one, but I get pre-listing packages all the time, and I greatly appreciate those that send them to me, and I would highly recommend everybody send me a pre-listing package so I can give you some feedback on it. But that's always one of my feedbacks is, hey, I'm looking at your plan of action. I don't think you're faxing things. No, I'm not. So you're not honoring your commitments. So here's a fun little thing that I always suggest to people. You really want to get a client on your side. When you take a list and you give them the plan of action, you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's what we're going to do. On Friday, 1 week after this listing goes live, we're going to be on a call. And I'm going to ask you to take out this plan of action sheet. And I'm going to tell you which of these numbers you can cross off. Okay, great. Now the client cuts on the phone. You say, okay, see number 1 where it says, if we put it on the MLS, yeah, it's on the MLS, cross that off. You see number 2, and then you just go through the list. Client's just checking it off. Oh my gosh, look at you honoring your commitments. That's how you get people for life. All right, number 4, admit when you're wrong. Admit when you're wrong. I had to do that today. True story. I had to write a very apologetic email to our staff today. I am our staff's biggest fan, okay? Biggest fan. I made an error. We had the meeting with Neil on Tuesday live in Irvine. I sent out the email to all the agents, join Neil live in Irvine. What I didn't do is I forgot to include the staff on the email to invite them to Irvine, okay? My mistake, 100%. Well, the staff was not happy that they were not on the invite to Irvine. So I owned up to it and I sent out a very apologetic email saying, I'm sorry, it was my error, I screwed up, won't happen again. Okay. And I got some good responses back going, Robert, it happens, it is what it is, what it is. Okay. But I had to own up to it. Admit when you're wrong. I don't know how some of you are going to take what I'm going to say next. So there's 25 on here. Let's see how many people stay on after I say what I'm going to say next. Sometimes you are wrong. Sometimes you are wrong. That's just life. It's not because you're not great at your job, because all of you are great at your job. It's not because you're a mean person. You, from what I know of the people on here, you're all very nice people. I enjoy working with all of you very much. Sometimes you're wrong because you're a human being. Just admit it. No one expects you to be right all the time. What makes it worse is when you just keep giving excuses. You won't admit to you're wrong. Okay? Admit when you're wrong. Be upfront about it. The price reduction script, for those of you, I mean, we haven't had to use it in a long time, and we still might not need to use it for a while, but the price reduction script says, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I want to apologize. I was wrong in terms of pricing your home, right? You're just admitting you're wrong right from the get-go. Be vulnerable enough to admit your fault. That could humanize you and make you appear more trustworthy. Admitting mistakes is also part of being honest, okay? It's okay. No one expects you to be right all the time. And the truth is, if you deal with someone and you're wrong and you admit it and they just trash you for it, you don't want to work with them anyways. Okay? Have a higher sense of people. All right. Number 5, communicate effectively. Communicate effectively. Pretty simple stuff, right? You want to lose trust? Miscommunicate. Okay. Now, here's what I would say. Try your best to communicate in a way that doesn't leave room for misinterpretation. So if you aren't sure about something during a conversation, ask questions to clarify. Listening is also just as important as speaking for effective communications. Make sure that you give others a chance to talk. It will show that you care if you genuinely listen. So communicate effectively, meaning that, now let me ask you this. What are some things that you could do or that are part of in your mind? If I say communicate effectively with a client, what are some things that pop in your head? What does communicate effectively mean to you? What are some ideas?
Well, one suggestion I have is that you, since you've been through this process 2, 3, 4, 5, 800 times, let the people know a really honest, as honest as you can be about how this transaction is going to go.
Sure.
And just outline it a little bit and just say, here's where we might have some problems when it comes up. Here's generally what happens when you have a home inspection. Here's what happens with appraisals. Maybe we'll get the appraisal. Maybe we can get it out of the contract. Maybe we can't. But just go through just like you're talking to your friend and just say, this is it. I mean, this is what's going to happen. And that way, nothing is really blown out of proportion. It's not that it's horrible when you go in and you're real excited. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And it sets you up for such a huge failure.
Yeah.
Because you have to hit a home run every time.
Which is impossible.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yep, I agree. I think it's a great point Dave brings up is walk people through the process. Buyers or sellers, this is the process that we're going to follow. So that way there's no surprises. There's no, I didn't know this was going to happen. And walk them through the good and the bad. Okay. For those of you that work with a buyer, when the inspection comes through, what is a buyer's general reaction to an inspection report? Yeah, right. I saw Maria's face. The house is falling down. I mean, inspection reports they're torture. So if you don't explain that to them ahead of time, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, so one of the next things we're going to do is an inspection report. Now, let me tell you about this before you get it. The inspector's job is to let you know that the house is a strong wind away from blowing down. Okay. Like walk them through the process. I think that, yeah, absolutely. That's effective communication. I wrote down here for effective communication. Okay. Ask them how they would like to be communicated with. So, do you know people that would rather have a text message than a phone call? Do you know people that would rather have a phone call than a text message? Do you know people that still want you to email them so they have a paper trail? Of course. So instead of communicating one way, ask them, how would you like me to communicate with you? Just send me text messages. Okay. Or they say, no, I don't want text messages. I want phone calls. Okay. That's part of effective communication. Okay. Asking questions to clarify. I made the joke earlier of I've been guilty of, past my sales career of overpromising by saying, yeah, I can do that. And then walking away going, oh, they just asked me. Ask questions to clarify. Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. And Lynn put this in the chat box, which kind of goes to that point. Summarize to make sure you heard it correctly. Okay, if I'm hearing you correctly, this is what you're looking for. No, that's not what I said. Okay, good. I'm glad I asked. So this is what you're looking for. Yeah. Okay, great. Or do that to a client. I heard Yvette do this on a prospecting call one time. Is that the client said, yeah, I understand. And Yvette said, okay, what do you understand? Say it back to me. So that way the client understands. Okay, so you make sure the client understands, because the client may say they understand. You go, okay, cool, we're good. And then later on, they get upset and you're like, but you told me you understand. And they really didn't. So ask them, I know you understand. What do you understand? Say it back to me. All right. Communication effectively. Okay. All right, I wrote down here next. Again, keeping it very simple. Be helpful. Be helpful. Someone who is trustworthy will tend to go out of their way to help people if they can. If they can. People don't expect you to move mountains. If you can. Not because of some agenda or because they expect to get something out of it, but because they're generally trying to be a good person to them. Okay. So someone told me this years ago, and I've kind of utilized this philosophy for many things in my life. If it's going to take you 5 minutes or less, just do it. Okay. So client says, hey, I saw a home go for sale down the street. Would you mind looking that up and just let me know, what it's being sold for or any details on it? That's going to take you 2 to 3 minutes. Look it up. Yeah, here's the address. This is what it's going for. Why? Tell me more about it. But just you doing that quick little, yeah, got the property address, here you go. Hey, I saw this one's a for sale by owner, but I don't know how to search for sale by owners. What are they selling it for? Do you have any pictures? Right? You just look it up real quick. Yeah, here you go. Here it is. That little stuff makes all the difference in the world. Because most people, what they do is, if you have the time, I know you're busy, right? You hear that. Yeah, I know you're busy, but if you have the time and then you do it and it's like, oh, wow, great. How many times have you done something for somebody and they go, wow, you got that to me so quickly? And they love you for it. If it's going to take you just a couple minutes, just get it done. They want to know something, hey, I'm thinking about moving to this area. Do you know anything about the schools? Do a quick little, oh, here's the grades for the schools. Little things like that make all the difference. Okay. But here's what I also put down under be helpful. And I talked about this the other day. Be a real estate resource, not a real estate agent. Okay. If you really want to be helpful and you want to build trust, be a real estate resource, not a real estate agent. How often do people buy or sell homes? 15 years, 10 years, 20 years in some areas? Okay, great. How often do they need someone to do some help on the home that they currently live in? Yearly, quarterly. I need an electrician. I need a plumber. I need someone to install a window. I need a new roof. They should be calling you. Hey, Robert, I need a roofer. You know one? Sure. Call so-and-so. I need an electrician. You know one? Yeah. Hey, I'm looking to do a trust. Do you know anyone? Yeah. Anything real estate related, anything housing related, they should be calling you. That's the trust that you build. You're a real estate resource, not just a real estate agent. A real estate agent is the person that takes their money. A real estate resource is the person that helps them with their real estate life, which includes, I own this house. I'm never going to sell it. So you're never going to get my listing, but I could refer you a bunch of people because you're always on my mind. Be helpful to people. Now, if you don't know an electrician, don't refer them somebody that you don't know. That goes back to being honest. You know what? I don't know a good electrician, but let me do this. I'll make a couple calls to some people that I trust, other agents that I trust in the area, or contractors that I trust. I'm sure they can refer me one. I do that all the time. Sometimes you all ask me questions of like, hey, I'm looking for someone in this area. And I'm like, I don't live there, but I'll call an agent that does. Okay, be helpful. All right, couple more points here. 3 more points. Number 7, show people that you care. Show people that you care. So when I wrote down here, show people that you care, I meant show people that you care more than just about selling their home. Okay. So remembering little details like, that they have a kid, maybe even their kid's name. How old's the kid? Okay. Things along those lines, that they had, whatever's going on in their life, that they're going on vacation. So the next time you call them, oh, how was your vacation? Little things like that make a big difference. There's an agent out of Chicago. His name is Lee Marcus. Lee Marcus is like one of those guys that was just, he was just built to be in sales. There's like certain people in life where it's just like, that's a salesperson. Lee Marcus is a salesperson. Okay. And he talks about this all the time, that when he calls his database, he takes crazy notes like what's going on with the kids, where are they going on vacation, what are they doing, what's happening in their lives, their anniversaries, their birthdays, all these different things. And he keeps track of it. So he knows when their birthday is. So he calls everyone on his database on their birthday. This might be someone that they bought and sold a house 10 years ago. He calls them on their birthday. He calls them to their kid's birthday, calls them on their anniversary, right? Oh, we're going away this weekend. We're going to go up to Palm Springs this weekend. Oh, okay, great. What are you going to do? I don't know. We're going to go try out some restaurants. And he'll do, again, 5 minutes or less, go find an article, not like a Yelp page, but like an actual article of 10 new restaurants in Palm Springs that, you got to try. And he'll say, hey, I saw this article. I don't know if there's anything you'd like on it. right? Like little details like that show that you care as a person and not just as a paycheck, right? Now, some of you might think, well, this is just such cheesy little things. This is like rapport building. This is, because look, if we're being honest, okay, it's just you and I here. No one else is listening. We don't really care. Okay. Like some people we care. Most of the people, we don't care. How do I know? Because this is what people do. Hey, how's it going? How's work? Oh, work's good. All right, cool. You don't go any further than that when you see people like at like parties or events or things like that. Oh, you got a kid. That's great. How old? Oh, 1 year. All right, cool. Like you don't go any, or what some people will do is they'll say, oh, you're going on vacation. Where are you going? We're going to Belize. And then you go, I went to Belize. Let me tell you about my trip. It's like, thanks. Some people we care, most we don't. But you have to do little things like this, okay, to show that you care if you want the business, okay? It's just all part of the gig. Now, another way that you can show that you care, that is actually helpful to real estate, is ask people for feedback. Because when you're asking people for feedback on how the process went, how you communicated, you're showing them, I care about your opinion. So tell me, how did it go? Another way you can show people that you care. All right, I wrote last 2 points here. I wrote down here next, number 8, stand up for what you believe in. Stand up for what you believe in. So this kind of ties into the honesty thing, but I just kind of put it in its own separate category. And what I mean by that is don't sacrifice your values or what you believe in just to appease somebody. Because they know whether that's the case or not. And then ultimately this will have limited trust with you. Now, I'm not telling you to get in a political argument with people, okay, or do anything controversial or anything along those particular lines. But you have, let's give you an example. Are there times in real estate where an offer comes to you from a client that can be a little shady? If you've never had that experience, you will. And some of you will go, well, I don't know, it's a deal. And I'm telling you to tell that client, you know what, this is not really up my comfort zone. Okay, not really comfortable with that. And people will go, I respect it, because they know they're doing something shady. It's not like people don't know. I didn't know that was illegal. Like, of course they knew. So when you stand up for what your standards, or you believe in, like, no, I'm not going to do that, that actually can increase your trust. Okay? Can actually increase your trust because you're standing up for what you believe in. You're standing up for your standards. You have certain values. Okay? That's just what you represent. Okay? You don't want to be associated with certain types of things. You don't want to be associated with certain type of people. That's perfectly fine. Someone comes to you and says, hey, I want to sell, this type of property. And you might say, no, I don't want to be associated with that type of property. It's a business that I don't want to be associated with. Okay. And I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but whatever your values are, whatever your beliefs are, stand up for them. And most people will find that actually appealing and be more trusting because they know when you're doing something that you don't want to do. And it's like, okay, I can get this person to do whatever. I have no really trust in them. They're just looking for a deal. They're just as sleazy as I am. Okay, you don't want to be that person. Okay. And the last thing I put down, what's that?
Can I just ask you one question about that?
Yep.
One of the hardest things I found over the past 6 months with this crazy market is presenting 4, 5, 6 offers. And there's generally 2 or 3 that really stand out. And of those 3, you have a sense of which one will probably go through. It may not be the highest one.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult to keep, because you want the best for them.
Right.
You don't want it to get in and fall out. But on the other hand, you don't want them to not have that extra $50,000 too.
Yep.
So it's like you almost have to just say it unemotionally, the merits as they are, and then just shut up.
Yeah.
And let them make the decision. And
Well, you could do that, and then or you could also ask them a question. So, Mr. and Mrs. Sauer, let me ask you: is the most amount of money important to you, or do we need to get this sold in a certain time?
Mhm.
Well, I have to be out of here in 30 days. I can't be I can't be here any longer. Okay, great. Based on that, there's a couple things you should know about this particular offer. Okay, and you can go into that. This is a down payment assistance one. Typically, the average, even though it's a higher offer, the turnaround time is usually about 45 to 60 days. Okay, is that okay with you? No, I got to be out here in 30 days. Okay, then we probably can't take that offer. Okay, now if they say, look, I could be here for 10 months, I don't care. I want the most money. And if it falls out, it falls out. Okay, great. Well, there you go. There's the most money.
Mhm. Good point.
So asking the seller what's important to them. We did that when we sold our first house. This was before I really knew much about different real estate things. Our agent did that. Our agent went to us and they said we had a condo at the time, and one of the offers was FHA, and then another one was conventional. The FHA was actually higher, and our agent came to us and they said, well, what's most important, the most money, or do you want to try to get out of here at a certain time? And we said, well, I'd rather just try to get out of here at a certain time and just have the smoothest transaction possible. And he said, well, then look, I got to be honest with you, condo, FHA, it could go through, but you might have some problems. I go, so it's up to you. And he said, it's up to you. We took the other one because it was like, well, I don't want to go through a falling out of escrow. I didn't want to go through that, even though the other one was less money. So I appreciated that because he at least asked me the question. If we weren't motivated to sell, then I would have just said, I don't care if it falls out. I'm trying to get the most money. So, but it is, to Dave's point, you have to be very, very careful with that because yes, then you're on the border of, misleading certain things. Good point. All right. Last one here on building trust is be transparent. Be transparent. As long as you can explain what you're doing and why you're doing it, most people will be able to understand. Don't keep secrets. Don't hoard information for yourself. Okay. Work collaboratively with other people. So this is, building trust with clients, with your database, but this is also building trust with other agents. Okay, you're withholding information from other agents on the transaction. Have you ever been involved in a transaction where it was a pain in the ass to get information from the other agent? Do you remember that agent? Yeah, of course you do. So the next time you have a listing and you get an offer written and it's from that agent, you go, oh, I don't know. And then that goes back to then Dave's point is now you're going to the client going, how do I explain to the client that we don't want to take the offer from this agent? But you have that little sense. Don't be the person that other agents do that to. Be transparent. Be transparent about your client, your seller, your buyer. When they need information, here you go. Don't try to withhold appraisal stuff or withhold stuff about the property. They'll find out. Well, I don't want to tell them that that's not permitted. That's going to come up. At some point, it will come up. You can either tell them on day 1 or they're going to find out on day 15. Okay. I don't want to tell them that this is this. Hey, put a rug on. Just put a rug. Put a rug. Okay, just put a rug on that hole in the floor. Right? No one will know. So be transparent with your client in regards to other agents. Be transparent when you're talking to the lender. Be transparent when you're referring business. Okay. I get this sometimes, you know, we refer a client and we ask for a 25% referral fee and we've like never spoken to the client. I get this from other agents. Yeah, your so-and-so agent sent me a referral. And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. The other agent, you didn't qualify them, you know, never even really spoke to them. It's like, come on. So be transparent to other agents. Be transparent to your clients. Just be able to explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. Most people will be able to understand. Everything comes up. In real estate, everything comes up because there's like 11 people that have to touch a transaction for it to pass, right? There's two agents, there's a buyer and a seller, there's a loan officer, there's an underwriter, there's an appraiser, there's an inspector, there's a title company, there's an escrow company, there might be an HOA, there's a, I mean, there's an insurance agent. You can't hide anything in real estate. There's too many people that have to approve on this. Just be transparent, okay? Be the agent that when you write an offer for a buyer, the listing agent goes, I like them. They're transparent. They're clear. I like working with them. Questions on anything we went over today?
Nope, just great information, man, as always. Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Great class, Robert.
All right. All right. Well, I'm glad you're here.